In ancient times, people knew about such words as the Kundalini. And the Kundalini is basically a word. And the Kundalini has been described with words as two snakes lying curled up, one black, one white, at the bases of your spine. Now, when people talk about Kundalini is rising, then what they mean is the energy that you have and that is coming into you through your root chakra is starting to climb up your spine. And you may picture this as two snakes that awaken and start to climb up your spine. And as they go through the different energy centers of your body, they purify all the trauma that you have been subjected to in your life. And that may allow you to look at your trauma in a more objective way and saying, wow, this happened to someone, this someone is me, and what I experienced was very intense indeed. Which means that at some point you will no longer say, oh my God, what happened to me was so bad, and because it happened, I have all kinds of reasons to be depressed and hate all kinds of people. No. Because at a certain point, you start seeing yourself in the role of the witness, which means you see your life unfolding in front of your eyes, and things are happening to you, and while you make choices, to some degree, you're just like a ball tumbling down a mountain. And all you can do is watch yourself tumbling down because you have no arms and you have no legs. Clinging never works anyway. So as you tumble and you tumble and you tumble and you pick up speed, you may gather enough momentum, right, to tumble down into the valley and even make it a little bit up the next mountain. Because this is a process that will continue. You will climb peaks and you will tumble down mountains. And that at times is a fucking challenge. That at times will be like a punch in the face when life comes and says, there's a lesson you're not hearing. Here's life for you, learn it. You've been weak, you've been lazy. Now you're gonna reap the consequences of your own harvest. Because that is what you planted. And now you're gonna take care of it in the form of a baby that has been sitting in front of the TV all its life. And that baby has a body that is weak. Because you only sit, you never stand, you never really walk. You just walk from one chair to the next and then you sit down. And that brings us back to the Kundalini, because if you want to tumble down the mountain as a ball that has no chance of stopping this, because it has no arms or legs, because in a sense you are just a pawn in the game of life, then the best thing to do is to simply accept that this is happening. But because you do have arms and legs, you can actually do something with them. Because in that sense, you are not only a ball that's tumbling down a mountain, you are a human being, and with that comes a lot of responsibility, because you have a mind, and you can think, and you can make choices, and you can choose to eat meat, but you can also say, I see what meat is. It's mass production, it's mass murder. Millions of beings are being killed each year, so why would I go on eating this? Why would I fill myself with mass murder? Why would I eat the product of the Nazi spirit and even feel good about it? So this would be a conscious choice. You are aware of the consequences. What is the effect of me eating meat on my spiritual development? And am I prepared to take these consequences and smile about them reoccurring in my life? Because at a certain stage, I can talk for myself, and I said, I no longer want to take responsibility for millions of animals that are simply being slaughtered for the pleasure of sinking teeth into them and then shitting them in the toilets after they've been mashed up into a pulp, and that only, right, after they had to live in caged conditions where they never saw the daylight and where they were being fed atrocious foods. I mean, there were times where people were feeding animals. They were feeding cows to cows. I mean, that's how sick the meat industry is. And everybody says, oh yeah, it's very good quality meat. I mean, the only thing I can say to that is, are you fucking kidding me? Right? This is not a pleasure talk. If you're stuck on this, if you cannot hear this, if you think I have nothing to teach you, then it's good that you left. Because if you cannot stand the truth of your own shame, then go somewhere else, right? Go to Eckhart Tolle and have him smile at you. Yeah. Go to, I don't know who, the certified health nut or something, go to somebody else. I don't really give a shit. I'm talking about energy rising. And if you fail to get rid of your habit of eating meat, then you will have a problem to grow spiritually, because your spirit has no need for meat. It actually is self-torture to eat meat. It is self-torture to sit on a couch and watch TV. That's basically torturing your spirit, because your spirit is basically nature. And nature is life. And life wants to move and wants to engage and wants to do things and jump around. Which means that everything science created is basically laziness, is basically the essence of what makes us sick, the belief that we are superior and that we can create better things than what is already available. Simply because we say we have hands and we can do things. But we never take full responsibility for what we've done. We just try to cover up the shit that we've created. And that is what happens when the Kundalini is rising. You start to become aware of, oh my God, this is what I've done in my life, and then you try to look away from it. Now life gave you a chance and it showed you some of your missed lessons. I say that on purpose. You could say mistakes, but I say missed lessons. But they stay lessons until you learned from them. It's a lesson that you have in your life. It's a teaching. You look at it, you learn from it, you grow with it. But if you never pay attention to what eating meat actually does for you, how it changes you, then how can you make a conscious decision? I'm talking to you. I know how I felt like while I was eating meat. I stopped eating meat. I couldn't really tell the difference, but I could tell the difference of how I felt. And how actually eating meat and eggs really disgusted me. There's a part in me that still really likes eating milk but if I see the way milk is produced, it's probably even worse than the meat industry. And why? Because the meat industry kills the animals probably after 1 year, whereas the milk industry keeps them alive for as long as they can produce milk, which is even more torture and even more suffering. So the question is, do you really want to support that? So if we talk about Kundalini rising, that means you look at everything you do in your life bit by bit. And you will be confronted with this. There is no real way of stopping this, because once you become aware of the state of affairs and you start tumbling down the mountain, you may try to cling, but the force of what is driving you is much greater than anything you could ever stop or anything you could hang on to. Believe me, I've tried clinging, I've tried hanging on, and I hated letting go, but I realized at some point there is no use to stop what is happening to me, because ultimately what was happening, as scary as it seemed, was highly beneficial to me and my well-being. My body grew in strength, my will grew in strength. I stopped masturbating, I stopped watching porn. I stopped feeling depressed all the time, and suddenly I was being given a purpose. And all because at some point I said to life, what is my purpose? What do I need? What do I want to do? And things started happening. And they keep on happening. And I have to make choices because I see that this is a choice I have to make, and I see in which direction the choice will bring me. And sometimes I'm not sure if I like this, because maybe I think I have a right to be angry at someone, and then my heart says, open up to them, because holding on to anger will only create more anger and suffering for other people that is unnecessary. You could heal this simply by opening up and healing the wound. And this is what Kundalini does. So stop fighting it, stop resisting it, start fighting for something instead of against something. So I fight for life, and because I fight for life, I speak about exploitation, and I speak about everything that makes us into an atrocity that has no other purpose than to just stuff themselves full with food and then take shits and watch TV. This is literally a cursed existence. And we are feeding it with our choices, and this has to stop. And believe me, when you're watching this, you're already in the middle of it, and there's no stopping it. It will continue. It will get worse if you resist it. It will get worse until you either land in a psychiatric clinic, or you accept responsibility for what is happening and learn to channel energy in the way that I have described it, and in hundreds of hours of material, in my content, in my podcast, in my books, even in my artworks, in my videos, in my music. This is all in there. If you want to know what I've gone through and learned from it, because you have the feeling you're gonna lose it, then use this content to grow alongside me. And then we can make this life a better place. And this is my message. This is what I came here to say. This is what I've been guided to do. And I come from a place where I literally wanted to commit suicide. So all I can say is, whatever is happening to me helps me to appreciate life more. And every day I feel a bit different, and I have the feeling, how is this even possible? Because 2 days ago I still thought I would rather be dead. And now I have the feeling, this is actually quite nice. I mean, this is a big transition. Alright. So it's like small steps, right, towards finishing the puzzle. So you take one step at a time. You take the biggest problem that you can see at the moment, and then you start working on it. And the biggest problem may be, I don't know, overeating. The biggest problem may be the way your relationships are going. The biggest problem may be, I don't really know, right? It may be dietary, it may be mostly emotionally, but ultimately, it doesn't really matter. Because it's all interconnected anyway. On one level, your eating habit is like a dietary problem, but ultimately, what it is a emotional problem. You may even call it a mental problem or something in your mind, because your affirmations say, I'm a piece of shit, and so you can start changing that. So there are so many methods out there. How to grow, how to heal, right? Some people use ceremonial cacao to open their hearts. Other people do breath work. Other people go swimming in ice bath, right? There's people that really love yoga. There's people that love doing crochet. Then there are people that really love to juggle. And then there are people that just go running. So whatever it is, figure it out. Anything but watching TV and sitting on a sofa chair, right? So you have to start strengthening your body and pick yourself up from the ground. And this will feel like you're being raped. But the truth is, you've been raped, and you've been raping yourself. You're sitting around and your back is broken. And to heal that, you first have to acknowledge how bad it is. But if you keep avoiding the pain, you will run away from it, and that means no healing. And so if you really want to know what Kundalini is about, what you should do is look it up, start reading about it, see if you find something in my content, right? You can just listen to this and see whatever comes up, right? It's like I have on Medium, there's also hundreds of articles that you can simply read and just pick the one that speaks to you and where you have the feeling, this interests me. And this is what I believe, the path to enlightenment. Cheers. Also, if you feel like you really need help in this process and you're really about to lose your shit, you can always send me an email. It's mail@christopher-reusch.com. Be aware that if you email me, you may be in a place of anxiety, then you simply have to wait for my response, because I'm not here to answer all kinds of emails. I'm just saying that I will respond, right? If you fail to survive in the meantime, then this is your own choice, right? But if you email me, I will eventually respond. If the email reaches me, I don't know, right? Maybe it gets lost on the way. So if there's no answer, then the answer is figure it out yourself. And if there is an answer, then it will probably be, what's so bad about your situation, right? Just flip the coin around and look at the positive side of things. What can you learn from this experience? Be the witness. Learn to see yourself from an outsider's perspective. Compare yourself to people that have been born with no arms or with Down syndrome or whatever that is, right? Like, see yourself as whatever you want to see yourself, that allows you to see your situation as a bit less terrible than you think it is, right? If you would compare yourself to a war veteran that kind of ended up in a war situation and killed hundreds of people, and then goes back and tries to live with the shame of having done that, then probably your situation is a little bit better or easier to handle, right? It's just like, it's all relative. You can talk yourself into, this is really bad, this is really bad, this is really bad. You just stop that and you say, wow, this is so intense. It's like completely different mindset. And suddenly you're smiling. It's like, holy crap. I mean, this is really intense. I mean, has anybody ever felt this much stuff? Like so many emotions that just bubble up and then just like bam. You know, it's like you're being in a tumble dryer, right? It's like you're literally tumbling down the mountain. And so learn to deal with it because this is happening. So the best you can do is just start running and saying, oh wow, I'm just running and I'm running down the mountain. You know, I'm not tumbling anymore. You know, I'm actively working with the Kundalini so I can flow back to the ocean and be in complete bliss. And if you're trying to really understand what is happening, well, have a blast. But every time I think I know what's going on, I take one step and suddenly I think I have no idea. And that is also the beauty I find about life in general. And the beauty also is there's a school and I'm always with children, right? My parents' house is next to a kindergarten and now there's a school. So I always see children and I really love them. And this is one reason why I fight, because I want children to have a different childhood than I had. And for that I have to work hard and I have to make choices that are hard, but they're also necessary, because we need men, we need real adults, not these shaved pussies that wear suits and just read stuff from papers that have been scribbled over by people that just lie about everything, because what they really want is to make money and they will say anything to get it from you. And this is why it's also really fun to grow spiritually, because the more you grow, the more you realize what is really happening. And you see these little schemes politicians play to get to people's taxes and to soothe their fears, right? And just stuff them back into the bag. And you realize, wow, I've really learned to work with my fears. And it made me stronger. And now I see all these people clinging to society like it's something they really need, and you think, wow, you know, what are they all so afraid about, right? Is like death really so bad? I mean, there's still a part of me that's really looking forward to it, and that's the best way to live. But it's also, right, you have to understand when the time is to die. You know you're gonna die. But you're not gonna end it before it just stops by itself, because that's giving up. You know, letting go is not about giving up. Letting go is about moving on. And in order to move on, you cannot give up. If you want to move on, you have to keep walking. But if you give up, you just sit. And when you sit, you will start to decay and then you will die. Because if the Kundalini wants to flow, the river has to keep going. And if you stop, then the river is like bleh. You may be a spring, you may be the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is only the Holy Grail if it's grailing or something, right? I don't really know, right? Just figure it out. It's like the spring or whatever. It's energy, it's rising, it's Kundalini. Look it up. Also, it comes out of your nose, right? So do something with that.